Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is college basketball for Saturday, February 3rd, Jake. 19,000 games on Saturday. I counted them all,
Yes.
while there were like 4 on Friday. So here we are with the unbalances. I joke with people all the time. The unbalanced schedule of college basketball throws me off as like
It's tough.
I like routine and just the like there's no games, there's all the games, there's no games, there's no games, there's all there's and then I get into baseball season and I'm like, oh, this is great. It's like mostly the same every day. And then like the rain comes and then I've got to like scramble on double headers and figure out like they do last minute pitching changes. And I'm like, I hate this. I'm ready for college. It's just like every time I just get sick of the other one.
College basketball confuses me at times too. Like teams will play Saturday, Monday, and things like that. And it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense for regular season. Like, why are we pushing that? Like, and then they won't do that. They'll take a week off, and it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, a lot about college basketball confuses me, but I think the answer to that's probably just television. But we do have a loaded Saturday card. A ton of picks over on Dub Club. Again, sign up link for that as always in the show description, and we'll talk more about that and how to get the discount code later on in the show. But Jake, I just wanted to point out, just because I have to say this because this like never happens, and this has just been one of the craziest weeks ever. The A grade totals this week through Friday are 21-4, and that is just I'm just flabbergasted at how incredibly good that is. It blows my mind. We have had some good luck, absolutely. I don't want to be that person who's like, when everything wins, it's all us, and then when everything loses, it's bad luck, right? We've had some great picks, we've had some good luck. Made up for some bad luck. We had that stretch a couple weeks ago where just like I think it was like 2-3 weeks ago. But that's been good. The show plays have been great so far. 7-5, but because of how we're scaling things and taking some dogs, so we're not losing much if we're doing plus odds in the money line. A 26% ROI this week, plus another 3.5 units. The last 3 weeks on the free show picks, if you've been with us, you're up 12.5 units. If you just go what we have on the show, and if you've been with us on Dub Club, you've been making a lot more than that. So it's been fun all the way around. We like to celebrate the good. And we point it out because when it's bad, we'll point it out too. We'll just be like, hey, like it's tough times, but like hang in there, it'll turn around. And then so we got to point out like, hey, it's been turning around. We said it a couple weeks ago. Sure enough, here it is. It's much more fun these times than the other times. Jake, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add to that discussion.
No, I mean the totals are just on point right now, and it's unreal how much difference like where the books are at and how Sideline is just nailing it. It's just been so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. And like I said, we have had some good luck. I've had a couple totals where we've had an under and then like they didn't foul late and we got it by like a point. Or, we had an over with like some crazies at the end. We didn't get that luck. I thought we were going to have it with Ohio State here on Friday. I thought that was going to do the same thing and get over with the crazy late game. And that's part of what we talk about with the overs and part of what's baked into some of that. It's a close game. It could have these weird endings and it just couldn't quite get there for us, but still been a great week for us. Hopefully we can finish up with a strong Saturday, and we're going to do that starting off at noon Eastern with UConn and St. John's. Jake, I don't know what there is to say about UConn at this point. I mean, it's starting to look a lot like last year. Last year, the team really struggled for a stretch because of I don't know. I don't know if we ever knew. It was really weird what happened. This year they struggled for a stretch because really Klingon just kind of makes everything work with that. So at least we have an excuse here for the injury and why, whereas last year it was really weird. But last year at the start of the season and at the end of the season, they looked like just a dominant force, and that's what they're looking like now. St. John's isn't bad. This is one of the better games of the day just because anytime you have a top team going on the road against a team with a pulse, anything can happen in college basketball. But we aren't going to talk about the side. I think it's priced reasonably well. I would lean UConn, but laying points on the road, laying odds on the road, it's not my favorite pick. what is one of my favorite picks is the over 145.5 A grade pick for us. Model thinks this has got a good shot to get into the 150s with an average projection of 151.7. We love UConn's offense. They're capable of putting up 100 any given day. It doesn't matter who they're playing. And with St. John's and the pace that they run, that's just going to allow UConn to score more points. Jake, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can say to UConn. We know what they are. They're a dominant force on both ends of the floor. It's unreal. Hurley might be one of the best coaches in the last decade. It's just unreal what he's done with UConn. But St. John's, the only way they stand a chance in this game is to really get that ball moving up and down, because they are a bad jump shooting team, not where they score from. They're not totally aggressive, and they hit the offensive boards hard, which is going to be tough against this UConn team. I trust Rick Pitino to scheme up ways here, because, I mean, they're not a great three-point shooting team, and they know it, so they don't shoot a ton of them. But they're going to have to do something to get their offensive chances, because their offense is kind of lagging behind, especially a little bit here lately. But at home, I feel like that's going to help out quite a bit. Coming off that Xavier game, they should do a lot better. Is this one at the Garden, or is this actual St. John's?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. Madison.
Okay, so at the Garden, I think that's going to help. Like, I think St. John's everybody tends to play better there.
Everybody tends to get up for that. I mean, why wouldn't you?
It's the mecca of college basketball. It's just basketball in general. But so I think we're going to get that, and I think the easiest route to stay in this game is to keep going up and down and try to get Connecticut running, because if you let them just dominate the ball, you're not going to be able to stop them the whole time, and they're going to slow you down with every made bucket they have. So you've got to get it going up and down.
We had the over in UConn earlier in the week when they played Providence, a game that we had over 140 as a B grade, and it got to 139. That game closed at 136. So depending on if you bet that game in the morning, later in the day at a better number, you maybe even won that one as well. Obviously, UConn has not been 100% to the over, but they've gone over a few more times than under. And we've kind of talked about this a lot with UConn in general. They've been more of an under team with teams who also want to go slow with them, and it kind of becomes a boring game. But when teams get more possessions, UConn, it takes the variability out of it, because their offense is so good. When they have more possessions, they're going to put up points. And that's what you expect to happen here. They're going to put up theirs. I'm like you. I like the fact that this is at St. John's, at Madison Square Garden, rather than in Connecticut. In Connecticut, it runs the risk of being a blowout. And that's where you have a little bit more possibility of last 5 minutes, nothing happening, depending on how big of a blow, last 10 minutes, nothing happening, that sort of thing. And, St. John's, in theory, should stay close enough to prevent that from happening. When they fall behind, they should just kind of play faster, because that's what you would want to do. You don't want to try to get into a half-court game with this UConn team. And so a lot of ways this can go over, and go over 145.5 A grade pick. Jake, this is your first show now with our new format, our new setup. We are powered by BetUS. Obviously, if you have not yet and you're looking for another sports book, we always talk about shopping around, finding the best price. Personally, I've got, 6-7 books that I've got a little bit of money in at this point, always looking for good prices. BetUS can be a great one to add to your repertoire. Links in the description to get a 125% bonus. Quick video. Again, if you blink, you'll miss it, so don't blink.
BetUS, America's favorite sports book, where you can bet on everything, anytime. Sportsbook, live betting, and casino. To celebrate 30 years in business, we have the best bonuses in the industry. Get a 125% sign-up bonus and up to 30 risk-free bets. So what are you waiting for? Join now. BetUS, where the game begins.
If you only have domestics, the domestics don't have all the same betting options as the offshore. So they have some fun things over there that you can get into some interesting markets that the domestics don't have. So something to check out. Again, we appreciate their sponsorship. We appreciate you, viewer, as well. And that'll take us to Houston and Kansas. Jake, I have a metric that I use to tell me what the best games will be every single day. When I was scrolling through, I was a little bit surprised. This one ranks 5th. And I was like, man, if this is the 5th best game, like, we've got us a heck of a day of college basketball, right? The games that rank ahead of this one, Colorado at Utah. that one should be a fun game as well, just because of the pace of that one should get you a lot of points. It should be a really close game, right? Utah's slightly better team. I don't know if I agree with that one or not. We'll find out, of course, but that one, it's barely ahead of this one. The other games, of course, Duke, North Carolina, which we do not have an official pick on this show, but that's going to be a great game. And it's fun when Duke and North Carolina are both good. Yes. There's been some years in recent times where maybe it hasn't been quite as competitive and it's been a bigger spread. And then even then, it's sometimes been such a good game. So it's always exciting when we think it'll be a tight contest. That one, according to the model, is the best game of the day. We'll talk about one of them, Iowa State, Baylor, later on. And then, of course, Tennessee, Kentucky should be a fantastic contest as well. And Jake, we'll get your thoughts on Tennessee on the extended cut. If you're with us on Dub Club, you as a Tennessee fan can give us your take on that one. But this one, apparently, according to the model, only the fifth best game. But my goodness, I'm excited for this one. Houston, the number one team in the country, according to Sideline, according to almost every advanced metric that I've seen, largely in part to a defense that is just breaking all of our models. It is incredible what they can do on defense. Their offense isn't bad. It's actually better than Kansas. We talked multiple times recently about Kansas and how the model's kind of down on them. They're up to number 20 in the model, which isn't bad. It's just not quite the same Kansas team as normal. The model is factoring in that Kansas has a large home court advantage, and so it does know that it's not applying a generic one. It's a specific scenario for home court here, giving Kansas a lot of home edge, but this Kansas team is still being priced like they're a top 10 team, and I'm just not sure that's true. Model says Houston wins this 2 out of 3 times. I have to emphasize, like always, this pick is not about Houston will win, Kansas can't win, none of that nonsense, right? We don't know what's going to happen, and if they were to play this game 10 times, you'd get 10 different games, right? With Houston winning some of them and Kansas winning some of them in different ways. In some games, it might be a little bit more high scoring. In some games, in one of those 10, there's probably one where Kansas scores like 50 points because that's just what Houston does from time to time, right? But the reason we like this pick is that minus 125 price. It's the fact that if they were to play this game 10 times, the model thinks Houston wins 6 or 7 of those, and that makes the minus 125 appealing. That's really all I have to say about it. It's all about the price. It's not really about anything other than this Houston team's really good, and I think the number should be bigger. I think we're getting a little bit of a discount because Houston's just not a sexy team to back. Everyone loves Kansas. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I don't understand all the Kansas love. They've not been that impressive to me this year, especially looking here recently. Like the West Virginia loss was very surprising. UCF loss was very surprising. But in Lawrence, they are a different team. And that's the only part of this that worries me is the fact that it's in Lawrence and how physical of a defense Houston likes to play. Fouls could get outrageous. Houston is not good from the free throw line, so if this becomes a free throw shooting contest, that's where this gets real nervous. Other than that, every category you can think of, Houston is better. They're the better. I think they're even the better. Well, it's close enough. 3-point feels like it's even with the 3-point percentage, but everything else, Houston, especially defensively, they're just. It feels like the Georgia defense from 3 years ago, where nobody could figure out how good that Georgia defense was.
College football Georgia.
Yeah, we're just murdering teams, and I think the whole defense got drafted over the 2 years.
Yeah. Couple years. It was last. Depending on how you want to view it, but yeah, a couple seasons ago, that Georgia defense was the same way. We were all like, I don't even know how to figure out how good this defense is. It was so just different, and that's kind of what this Houston defense is. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, they're blocking shots. They're causing turnovers. It's outrageous what they do to teams. I think they had that weird blip with their first 2 Big 12 games, or not, first 2 road Big 12 games, and after that, have really figured it out. I mean, going to BYU and actually handling that was very impressive. The Houston team, in my opinion, is the best team in the country. Their offense doesn't get enough credit for what they do, especially when those threes are going with LJ Cryer and all that. They are extremely talented and don't fall for the Kansas is always good and Fog Allen kind of thing.
Yeah, and of course, Houston has 11-9-1 according to covers.com against the spread. The push was when they were 34-point favorites. Of their 9 times that they failed to cover the spread, 4 of those were when they were 17-point favorites or larger. And those are just harder to figure out anyway. They're kind of different animals. So for the most part, when it's been closer, they've handled their business. And of course, they've had plenty of blowout wins as well. But you made a good point there that those first 2 road games in conference for them at Iowa State, that's a very tough place to play. They lost by 4 and they lost to TCU. And they could obviously lose this game as well. But the BYU road win was extremely impressive. And then, of course, they've also beaten Texas on the road now since then. This Kansas team, I'm not trying to say they're bad. They are better at home for sure. Both these teams are undefeated at home. Of course, both these teams have won a lot anyway. But I want to talk about, Kansas 9-12 against the spread. And the reason we talk about the spread, even though we're not playing the spread here, is the spread is, a general indication of how the market is viewing the team and if they're too high price or too low price. So you could convert this, and instead, if you wanted to lay the 2 points with Houston, I think it's perfectly fine. 1's not very common, so laying 2 with Houston I think is a fantastic play as well. Model thinks it should be 5, and that's kind of the point here, that we've got a little bit of discrepancy whether we view it on the point side of it or the probability of winning side of it, in that we've long talked this market's just a little bit too high on Kansas. And while they have not lost a single game at home, not all of these home games are made equal. And that's, I think, the final point that I want to make on this game. They've only played 1 team at home with the pulse all season. In conference. They did beat UConn at home by 4. That was a tight contest. That's the only other team they've played that's any good at home. TCU was the one in conference. They beat them by 2 at home. They were favored by 9. Otherwise, Oklahoma is very okay, but they are not anywhere near the caliber of those top Big 12 teams. They're not in the same caliber as, in my opinion, the BYUs, the Houstons, et cetera. Cincinnati at home, they only beat them by 5. They did destroy Oklahoma State at home, and that is kind of a start in the right direction because they should be beating those teams by 30 at home. So if Kansas keeps doing that, it's a different story. But I'm not going to say anything about the one game and just more point out that, yeah, they've won these games at home, but it's only 2 teams that are really good, in my opinion. Both of those were close games, and that's why we like Houston at -125. Kansas could win this game, so we're not advocating laying Houston, -200. We're saying laying 2 with Houston basically just means they have to win the game, or -125, they only have to win the game. And so that's kind of the reason for this, because I'm just not sure this is the same Kansas team, and everyone just is assuming that at home they be, and it's like, I'm just not sure because they haven't been beating teams like they did Oklahoma State, even at home. Now, again, they win this one, they start beating teams like that at home, completely different story, and we will adjust to that accordingly. I just haven't seen it yet, but this Houston team is the real deal. Like you said, I agree. I think they're the best team in the country. No disrespect to Purdue and UConn. There's really only a top 3 in my mind. I don't think anybody else is even close. But Houston on the road, a great chance to get it done. I think we should have to be laying 5. I think we should have to be in the -200, -190 range. And then we look at it and we go, Houston's a better team, but that's too much of a price to take. I can't do it. And instead, because the books know that Houston's not sexy and they know that everyone loves Kansas, they know they can't price us there. It's our turn to take advantage of it, just like we did last week with Iowa State. We're going to back Houston here. B grade pick -125, which will take us to another Big 12 game, Iowa State and Baylor. One of the better games of the night. You can see, according to Sideline, Iowa State ranked 9th, Baylor ranked 15th. Pretty reasonable pace in this one. Defensively, obviously, Iowa State is fantastic. Still got a good offense. Baylor, better on offense. Still got a good defense. Should be a really good game. I don't know who wins. I think this one's priced spot on. Model says 2.8, as you can see on screen. I think it's like 2.5 or 3 right now. Moneyline price is pretty right on. If you're looking for action on this game, we have a doozy of a play for you here, over 142.5. We have many A-grade unders that we can get to you on Dub Club if you're with us over there. But we're going to cover a couple of the A-grade overs here. I don't know what else to say other than the same things we've been saying all season, the same things that have been profiting for us, which has been, with regards to totals, the weaker you are, it's harder to score points. The better you are, the easier it is to score points. It just has to do with the talent, all the things you've been preaching, yada, yada, yada. Model thinks this game gets to about 150. Even if Baylor's going to play this a little bit slower, this is one of the faster Iowa State teams I remember. I watch a lot of Big 12 basketball. I don't ever remember them having an above-average pace. Maybe there was a year or two, but it feels like they typically have slowed down. they get up and down the court at a reasonable pace. This is should be a tight game. You can have late game fouls. You can have overtime. A lot of ways this goes over. This is not a lock. There are no locks in betting. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying to you. But we think this stands a good chance of getting into the 140s or into the 150s. Most of those get us the win. That's why it's got the A grade stamp of approval. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like since December, it's been rare, like very, very rare that Iowa State doesn't get above this number. They've just been on an offensive tear. Their offense doesn't get enough credit. They play at a fast pace. They have a good defense, but I mean the games that don't get above this were a blowout win over Oklahoma State where they just didn't have to do anything. Houston, but that's Houston's defense stopping that. Oklahoma was weird. So if we throw that one out because let's say they just had an off night, the rest of these games are flying over this number. They love to force turnovers. That defense really thrives, which feeds their offense, which keeps the pace up. Baylor can get a little bit sloppy at times, and that will absolutely speed this game up, lead to some easy buckets. But then again, Baylor's got just a fantastic offense that can really light it up from three. I love Ray J. Dennis. I thought he was one of the best pickups. He's been very good all year. Very good point guard. Bigger guy, can a little bit stronger, can back down and then run the offense that way. They're good. Baylor's good from the free throw line. Iowa State not so much, but this should improve with them being the home team here, or not. They're not the home team. Got confused there, but Baylor, I think all the shooting goes well.
I actually did that too. Looking at the bottom line, I put the projected score of who's going to win first, and so I did the exact same thing. My brain saw Iowa State second. Was like, wait, I thought this game was in Waco.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Iowa State is going to be fantastic. They're going to get that pace going. Baylor at home, I know their pace seems to have slowed down a little bit, but the offense is still so efficient, and I don't think Iowa State's defense is going to be enough to slow them down. I think we're going to get a fantastic game with a ton of points.
The pace has slowed down, but it's like the books have overreacted to it. We talked about this. Baylor went under in 4 straight games to start conference play. I think if I'm looking at it correct, I think 2 of those 4 we had the over. So we lost 2 of those picks, absolutely, but then did not play their total in the next 2 games. And then we've been on the over as an A grade over for the next 3. And so, yeah, we lost 2, but we've won the last 3 here, 3 overs in a row where the books have overreacted. And that's where the model cooled off. And those 2 after those first 2 games was like, okay, can't play the over. This number's too high. And then after the overreaction from the market, from the books, whoever, we've jumped on the over. And that Texas game kind of snuck over at the very end. But that first half pace was insane. So many points is what kind of let us go on cruise control to get it. The TCU game, while it had a billion overtimes, it actually got over in regulation, or depending on the number you got, was guaranteed to go over based off the fact that somebody would then have to score again to break the tie. In their last game, even at UCF, they got them over,
yeah, that was wild.
Which is a pretty impressive feat. UCF shot from 3 really well. That's kind of the whole problem with sometimes Baylor's defense, like you said, can give up some points. And Iowa State's offense, as you mentioned, they've gone over in 4 straight games as well. Their offense not getting enough credit. Again, when you look at how these teams are playing as of late, even with Baylor slowing the pace down, there's a little bit of an overreaction as Iowa State team. We've been on their overs as of late. It's working really well. And I think this number's priced way too low. This should be at least in the mid 140s, if not in the upper 140s. Again, model would price it at 150. So A grade value on this over. And again, if you want to get all that information and that chart for every single game, all those words for every single game, all 150 of them ish on every single Saturday. You can join us on Dub Club. Sign up, link in the show description. Get $5 off your first month with that link. It'll take you right there. Apply the code automatically. QR code, pull out your phone on screen there if you're with us on YouTube, and you can get there. And that'll also get you to the after show, the extended cut, what we affectionately call study hall, where we will talk about the plays of the day and anything else Jake wants to throw at me, including some of the bigger games of the day, other A grades. We got a lot we could talk about here heading into this Saturday, and a lot of fun over on our Discord chat where y'all can tag us over there and ask us other questions about these games. Jake, any parting words before we have a musical interlude and then come back and talk more basketball?
No, this weekend is just loaded. I cannot wait to watch all of this. You've got of course, Duke and North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, plus the games we just covered. And then tomorrow or Sunday, you've got Purdue, Wisconsin. It's just a fantastic weekend, and I am so excited to watch it all.
And the NHL All-Star Game, which is always a lot of fun. You know, I assume there's a 3-on-3 thing. That's fun. But this is just a reminder, you know, hockey model coming after the break. So a lot of reasons to be over with us on Dub Club. Again, link in the show description and check it out. Hopefully we will see you after the break talking more college basketball. If not, we'll see you next week.